Every day, we are learning more about our changing world. Every day, ideas are born, challenges become opportunities. To achieve our purpose, we need people who can turn ideas into reality, who can create success. That's us at ABB. Thinkers, engineers, scientists, innovators. We push the boundaries of technology to make industry safer, more intelligent, and more productive.
Hello, my name is Tania Constable and I'm the CEO of the Minerals Council of Australia. Thank you for the opportunity to deliver the keynote address for IMARC. I'm honoured to be presenting to provide an insight into how Australia's minerals industry responded to the challenges of COVID-19. While I can't be with you in real time to answer questions, please feel free to send through any feedback or questions through to the MCA via the IMARC organisers. I would also encourage you to visit our website at minerals.org.au, where we have a dedicated COVID-19 section, including information about the initiatives I'll talk about today. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and pay our respects to the elders of the lands from which I've joined you from today. My full speech will be provided to you will cover some background about the minerals industry in Australia, its contribution to Australia's economy, the effect the pandemic had on our nation, and how our industry responded to the unprecedented crisis. But it is the latter, how the industry responded, that I would like to cover in my presentation today. The COVID-19 pandemic led to an unprecedented disruption of the global economy, and Australia wasn't immune from its effects. While the early phase of the COVID-19 pandemic may have had a minimal effect on site operations, there was no room for complacency. We couldn't risk a widespread outbreak. We faced a once-in-a-century pandemic that had the potential to wreak havoc and disrupt the minerals industry, a sector that has underpinned the nation's economic prosperity for most of its modern history. Along with the MCA board and staff, I felt a huge sense of responsibility. This wasn't just an economic crisis, it was also a safety and health risk that could spiral out of control in Australian regional areas where our companies operated. We knew early on this needed to be a coordinated, whole of mining industry effort. Our number one priority as an industry was not only keeping our workforce and their families safe, but also regional and remote Indigenous communities. By doing so, we could also keep production going. The minerals industry has a special duty to work with and support Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and keep remote communities safe. From the pandemic's outbreak in Australia, it became clear that the MCA had to be proactive. There was no time to waste. We had to move fast to ensure the minerals industry kept its companies, workforce, and regional communities well informed, equipped, and safe so they could continue to operate as normal as possible. The challenges included workforce movement restrictions, pressure on infrastructure such as ports, rail networks, and community health facilities, and medium-term equipment and consumable supply risks. From the moment the Commonwealth and state governments announced measures back in March to control the spread of the virus, the industry responded in a timely and decisive manner. This meant working in partnership with our state industry associations in Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia, Western Australia, and Tasmania, other industry associations such as APIA and the Australian Aluminium Council, as well as industry unions such as the AWU and CFMEU, to establish, implement, and support the resources sector national COVID-19 protocols. These protocols provided the industry with comprehensive guidelines to ensure it kept its staff and regional communities safe. We were united in our determination to implement strict COVID-19 health and safety measures to keep people in work and sites operating where it was safe to do so. Our protocols and guides weren't just shared with our members, but the whole industry, because we were all in this together. So it was important that non-member organisations had access to these tools too. Only a concerted, organised and disciplined approach across the sector would keep our workforce and regional communities safe and our industry operating. Companies moved very rapidly to adopt the protocols, which received broad support from the Commonwealth, all states and territories, and respective resources ministers. We understood that there would be border restrictions in place. Travel to and from Australia and between states would be disrupted. The industry has protected and supported local communities by greatly reducing fly-in, fly-out workforces and using supply chains to meet the vital health needs of local schools, remote communities and regions. We had to set up testing facilities to ensure that workers entering these regional communities were free from the virus. We had a national coordinated mechanism in place to ensure mining issues were raised and cross-border matters addressed. The adoption of these policies will ensure that when Australia emerges from the COVID-19 pandemic, a strong mining sector and a safe and healthy workforce will help Australia's economic recovery for the benefit of all Australians. In these tough times, the sector remains focused on operating safely as an essential industry which supports workers, families and local communities and Australia. I'm proud of what we achieved and continue to achieve. Australian mining companies have been working closely with local pandemic response committees, councils, government agencies, community organisations and others to meet local health and social needs and keep their staff and local communities safe. They've collectively allocated hundreds of millions of dollars to fund various initiatives. Examples include BHP providing $50 million for the Vital Resources Fund to support host communities surrounding its Australian operations in the areas of health. Anglo American donating hand sanitizer to local emergency services, educational facilities and local businesses. Glencore launched a $25 million global community support fund to help local teams provide support and resources to host communities. Fortescue Metals Group, together with the Minderoo Foundation, committed up to $160 million to procure and distribute life-saving medical supplies and equipment. Newcrest Mining established a $20 million community support fund. Newmont established a $20 million global community support fund to assist host communities, governments and employees combat COVID-20. I encourage you to visit the MCA website to view dozens of initiatives that mining companies have supported and led in the fight against the pandemic. With the Governor of the Reserve Bank warning earlier this year of the severity of the economic downturn and emphasising the importance of pro-growth and pro-productivity reforms, the post-COVID-19 recovery provides a great opportunity to supercharge economic recovery through sensible policy reform. To ensure mining continues to drive Australia's COVID-19 economic recovery, governments should support the industry with faster project approvals, competitive tax rates, co-investment in mining skills programs, and more flexible workplaces. A more robust, transparent, and accountable regulatory system will strengthen the minerals industry's ability to provide highly skilled, highly paid jobs and help the long-term recovery of Australia's economy and society. If governments grasp the chance for sensible reform as the post-COVID-19 era dawns, the industry can do even more for Australia. Attracting new exploration investment is essential to Australia's post-COVID-19 economic recovery. And we know that when mining is strong, all Australians win. Thank you for supporting our industry and for the part you play in keeping our communities safe. Thank you.